Wow, it's time for another show full of tips and ideas from the sales growth leadership expert, Dean Akers. Known for his experience in hyper-growing companies and creating cultures for high-performance teams, here's Dean.
Well, welcome to episode 47. This is going to be our last episode for 2018. And again, I want to give a big shout out for all my viewers and listeners out there. This has been a big year. We started this, like I said, 47 episodes ago this year, and it's grown to thousands, actually tens of thousands of downloads in 135 countries now. So hopefully what we bring each week is giving you at least that one idea that can make a difference in your career. This week is kind of going to be a little storytelling about some ideas to take it into 2019 to shake it up. It's the episode's name is 215-502. So we're going to talk about shaking it up in 2019 and why it's so important. So back in 1974, I graduated from college. I got to work for a company in Lakeland, Florida. And my first position was working in the warehouse as a warehouse parts puller. And so I was working in this warehouse, and the guy that ran the warehouse had been there 25 years, 30 years, been there forever, ran the warehouse. I come in as a new kid in there, and they sit down and tell me exactly how everything should be done. And of course, being a new employee, I want to do it just like I'm told, and make things happen so they'll be proud of me and I'll do a good job. So I start working, and every morning we start at 7 o'clock, and the first couple of days we're there, I had people come up to our parts window. We had a 50,000 square foot warehouse. Our parts window was in, call it the lower right-hand corner. That was where our window was. And so they would come in, and they would order various parts. And after being there a week, I noticed there was this part number 215-502. Now, this is over 40-something years ago, and I still remember the part number like it was yesterday. 215-502. The 215-502 was a transmission filter. It was the number one moving part in the company. 215-502. So people would come up to our window, and the guy that was running the window would go, the customer would come up and go, I need a 215-502. The guy that had been there 20-something years, the manager of the warehouse, would go, Dean, go get a 215-502. Now, for the listeners and watchers out there, does anybody want to take a halfway guess of where the 215-502 was? We were in the lower right hand corner of this 50,000 square foot warehouse. The 215-502s were in the upper left hand corner, exactly the furthest distance from where our customer stood and ordered the product. So I, being a good employee, would run around the warehouse, run all the way back to the corner, and pull the 215-502 and bring it back up and put it on the counter, and the customer, everybody's happy. I did that for about 2 weeks, and I started saying to myself, this is crazy. I don't know how this happened, but this is crazy. So I went one night to a local, like what back in the day was a Zayres. It was called Zayres. It was a precursor to the Walmarts in our area. And I bought a parts dolly, this little thing that had little wheels on the bottom, and I assembled it, and you'd put parts on it, and you could push it up and down. It was a little thing to carry multiple things on, parts. So I bought it, and I got to work early that morning, and I pushed it. I got there about 6:30. I pushed it back to the corner where the 215-502s were, and I put about 10 or 15 215-502s on the cart, pushed it up to the front. Now when a customer came to the front, they would go, could I have a 215-502? I'd reach over, grab it, hand it to the customer. Instant service. Well, later in the day, my boss looked at me and goes, Dean, what is that? And I said, well, Lou, I went out and I bought a cart, and I thought it would help our customers if I had the parts like right here, since this is our most popular part. And he goes, that's not the way we do it. And I said, well, would it make sense that this would get the part quicker for the customer? He says, look, we're not going to pay you for the cart. I said, well, I didn't ask anybody to pay me for the cart. I'm just interested in helping the customer. Quite frankly, I was probably lazy too, because this is a big warehouse. I was running it back and forth for this 215-502. And he also said, we're not going to pay you any overtime for coming in early to put those parts on the cart. And I go, didn't ask, didn't even clock in. And so what happened out of that is customers started commenting about how the service was improving. And what we did was, or what happened there, what I learned out of that was how to take a situation, listen to the customer, listen to the need, listen to the market, if you will, and change it up. And I see companies all the time that I help today, and I'll go, why do you do it? Well, it's because the way we always done it that way. And all I can be reminded of is the 215-502, which also reminds me of a great exercise if you've never done it. Now, most of y'all have done it, because whenever I bring this up to speaking groups I get in front of, I can see the smiles because everybody knows what's going on. It's called the Legacy Campfire Story. And that's similar to the 215-502. Somebody put the 215-502 back there years ago. Who knows? The front of the warehouse might have been where the 215-502 was 15 years ago. I don't know. I know that because everything was the way it was, nobody would change it. And I couldn't even really find out who actually set it up. So it becomes irrelevant. The bottom line is the 215-502 should not have been where it was. And I changed it up, or I would hope your team would change it up when they see these craziness, which brings us back to the Legacy Campfire Story. So I'm sitting there telling campfire stories to somebody to my right, and it goes around the campfire. What happens to that story by the time it gets to the 7th or 8th person when you ask them to repeat the story? Of course, everybody out there knows the answer. The story doesn't even resemble the story that started out to be told, which is kind of comical because it goes back to the 215-502. I don't know why or how that part was in the furthest point in the warehouse. I'm wondering for you out there, do you have those kind of things? Do you have machines set up in the wrong place because somebody did it 20 years ago? Do you have 215-502s in your company that nobody challenges? Do you have legacy campfire stories when somebody says, why do we do it? Well, that's the way we've always done it. So here's what I want you to do. Going into 2019, I want you to challenge the ways you do things. Challenge the ways you do things. If you're in sales, get off the interstate. Get off the interstate. Drive a different way to your client. Drive a different way to your office. See things differently. You'll be shocked at what kind of things will open up for you. Break up your routine. Practice breaking up your routine. Now, that being said, what I want everybody to remember today out of today's visit is look for the 215-502s in your company. Do you have 215-502 legacy situations that have just been going on? Challenge the way you do things. Break up your routine. Let's make 2019 a breakout year. And the way we're going to do it by breaking up our routines, challenging status quo, getting out there and make things happen. So, your challenge and your charge is to break up your routines and make 2019 a breakout year. See you in 2019.
We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Subscribe today to our podcast and send questions or thoughts to help@deanakers.com. Also, visit us at www.deanakers.com to listen to prior shows and view helpful videos. Also, great tips to download. Thanks again. See you next week.